March 3rd, 1931, 8:15 in the evening. Cab Calloway stepped out of his cream-colored Packard, wearing a white tuxedo that cost more than most Harlem families earned in 6 months. The fabric was imported silk, the cut was perfect, and every eye on 142nd Street turned to watch him arrive. He was 23 years old and already legendary. His voice could climb 3 octaves without breaking. His hidey-ho made crowds lose their minds from Boston to Chicago. That night he was the headliner at the Cotton Club, the man who would fill the room with wealthy white folks hungry for authentic Harlem jazz. But something was wrong at the entrance, and what happened next would teach Bumpy Johnson a lesson about power that would define the rest of his life. Tommy Sullivan stood at the velvet rope with his arms crossed. He was new, Irish, maybe 25, with red hair and a face that looked like it had been in too many bar fights. When Cab approached the main entrance, Tommy extended one thick arm across the doorway like a railroad crossing gate. "Back door, boy," he said, not even looking Cab in the eye. "This club is whites only." Cab blinked twice, certain he had misheard. The street noise of Harlem at night was loud. Car horns, distant music, people laughing. Maybe the words got twisted. "I'm Cab Calloway," he said slowly, pointing to the marquee above them, where his name blazed in electric lights 6 feet tall. "I'm performing here in 45 minutes. Tommy Sullivan spat on the sidewalk between them. The glob of saliva landed inches from Cab's polished shoes. "Don't care if you're the King of England," Tommy said. "Coloreds use the back entrance. That's the rule." 20 people stood in line behind Cab, 20 witnesses to what was happening. White couples in evening gowns and tuxedos, dripping in diamonds and privilege, looked away. Some studied their shoes, others suddenly found the traffic fascinating. Not one person spoke up. Not one person said this was wrong. Inside the club, Cab's entire band was setting up, tuning instruments, preparing for the show that would earn the Cotton Club $1,500 that night. In the kitchen, Negro waiters who would serve $100 bottles of champagne were arriving through the back entrance, the alley entrance, the service entrance. The Cotton Club had made millions exploiting black talent from Harlem, packaging it for white consumption. But at the front door, the artists who created that wealth were invisible, unworthy, less than human. Cab Calloway took 3 steps backward. His jaw was tight. His hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage so pure it made his vision blur. He could have screamed, could have caused a scene, could have demanded to see the manager Herman Stark, who had personally begged him to perform that night. Instead, he did something nobody expected. He turned toward the window where his band members were watching this humiliation unfold, and he made one simple gesture. He drew his finger across his throat. Show canceled. Then he climbed back into his Packard and drove straight to Small's Paradise, because if there was one person in Harlem who would understand what needed to happen next, it was Bumpy Johnson. Small's Paradise was everything the Cotton Club pretended to be. It sat on 7th Avenue and 135th Street, the true heart of Harlem, where the music was real and the respect was genuine. Negro-owned, Negro-operated, Negro audiences, Negro profits. When Cab walked through those doors at 8:30 that Tuesday night, the energy shifted immediately. People recognized him, sensed something was wrong. He moved through the crowd like a man on a mission, past the bar where glasses clinked and laughter rose, past the small stage where a quartet played something smooth and low, straight to the back corner where Bumpy Johnson sat playing dominoes with 3 old men who had seen everything Harlem had to offer. Bumpy was 25 years old in 1931, not yet the king of Harlem he would become, but already respected in ways that mattered. He controlled the numbers game in 6 blocks, settling disputes, protecting local businesses, maintaining order when police wouldn't. He wore a gray suit that night, perfectly pressed, and when Cab approached his table, Bumpy knew immediately something serious had happened. You didn't interrupt Bumpy's domino game for small problems. Cab told him everything. The doorman, the spit, the 20 silent witnesses, the humiliation of being blocked from performing at a club that existed solely because of talents like his. "Only Madden thinks he can use us and throw us away," Cab said, his voice shaking with controlled fury. Thinks he can profit off our music but treat us like dogs at his door. Bumpy Johnson sat perfectly still for a long moment. The domino pieces were forgotten. The old men at the table watched his face, trying to read what would come next. Then Bumpy smiled, but it wasn't friendly. It was the smile of a chess player who had just seen 20 moves ahead. "You performing tonight?" Bumpy asked. "Yes, but not at the Cotton Club. Here, if you'll have me." Bumpy stood up smoothly, buttoning his suit jacket. "You'll perform here, and it's going to be the biggest night Harlem has ever seen. But first, I need to make some calls." It was 8:45. The Cotton Club show was supposed to start in 75 minutes. Bumpy had a plan forming, and it was beautiful in its simplicity. He was about to teach Oni Madden that in Harlem, true power didn't come from velvet ropes and discriminatory policies. It came from community, unity, and the strategic application of economic pressure. The first call went to Duke Ellington. "Duke, I need you at Smalls in 1 hour. Can't explain now, trust me." Duke didn't hesitate. The second call went to Ethel Waters. "Put on your finest dress. Tonight we make history." Third call tried to reach Louis Armstrong on tour. Left a message. Within 15 minutes, Bumpy had contacted 12 of the best musicians in New York City, and every single one agreed to come. No questions asked. That was Bumpy's real power. Not violence or intimidation, but the respect he commanded when he asked for help. But musicians weren't enough. Bumpy needed an audience, and not just any audience. He called pastors at 3 Baptist churches, leaders of the Textile Workers Union, owners of beauty parlors and barbershops, community organizers who moved through Harlem like blood through veins. The message was simple, direct, and devastating. Cotton Club humiliated Cab Calloway tonight. Tonight we show them who really makes Harlem work. Within 30 minutes, word spread through the neighborhood like electricity through copper wire. If you enjoy learning more about stories from the American Mafia underworld, click the button and subscribe to our channel. At 9:15, inside the Cotton Club, manager Herman Stark began to realize something was catastrophically wrong. Cab's band wasn't warming up. The pianist had vanished. 2 waiters called to quit. Stark tried calling Cab's apartment. No answer. He tried calling Bumpy Johnson. The line went dead. Stark started sweating through his expensive shirt because he suddenly understood he was watching a disaster unfold in real time and had no way to stop it. By 9:30, Stark confronted Tommy Sullivan in the coat room. "What exactly did you do?" Stark's voice was quiet, which was worse than yelling. Tommy went pale. "I just followed the rules, sir. Coloreds through the back." Stark grabbed Tommy by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "You imbecile. That Colored was our $1,500 headline act. Oni Madden is going to murder both of us when he finds out you cost this club a fortune because you couldn't recognize our own performer." Meanwhile, at Small's Paradise, something magical was building. By 9:45, the line wrapped around the entire block. These weren't just regular customers. Negro doctors in 3-piece suits, school teachers in their Sunday best, lawyers, laborers, church ladies wearing hats with feathers, young couples dressed for celebration. 1,000 people wandered into a room that held 300. The energy on the street was electric, revolutionary, like something fundamental was shifting in the architecture of power. Duke Ellington arrived at 10 o'clock with his entire band. Ethel Waters came wearing a gold dress that caught every light in the room. Fats Waller showed up grinning like Christmas morning. Bessie Smith, the Empress of the Blues, canceled her Chicago show and took a train to New York just to be there. These were legends, titans of American music, and every single one understood what was really happening. This wasn't just a concert. This was a statement, a declaration, a line drawn in the sand of history. Inside Small's Paradise, Bumpy climbed onto the stage at 10:15. The crowd went silent instantly. "Tonight," he said, voice carrying to every corner, "the Cotton Club told Cab Calloway he wasn't good enough for their front door. So we decided something. We don't need their front door, we have our own door. And tonight we're going to show New York City who really matters in this town." 1,000 voices exploded in applause that shook the windows. This was more than entertainment now. This was resistance, dignity, power being reclaimed one decision at a time. Cab Calloway took the stage at 10:30, exactly when he should have been at the Cotton Club. But instead of singing for wealthy whites who saw him as exotic entertainment, he sang for his own people. His voice had never sounded more powerful. Every note was an act of defiance. Every hi-de-ho was a declaration that they would not be humiliated, would not accept less, would not enter through back doors anymore. The room felt like it might explode from the energy, from the pure joy of collective resistance. At the Cotton Club, 400 white customers sat in embarrassed silence. No music played. The replacement band was terrible. Negro waiters served drinks with blank expressions, and some customers began leaving, demanding refunds, complaining about the quality. Herman Stark was in his office having something resembling a heart attack while calculating the financial losses that were mounting by the minute. Oni Madden received the call at 11 o'clock. He was Irish mob, controlled bootlegging and gambling in half of Manhattan, not a man accustomed to hearing bad news. "We have a problem," Stark said, voice shaking. Cab canceled. Half the staff disappeared. Customers are leaving. And there's more. Bumpy Johnson organized a massive show at Small's Paradise. Half of Harlem is there celebrating. Madden was silent for exactly 5 seconds. Then he exploded with language so profane it made Stark's ears burn. Madden sent 3 enforcers to Smalls to talk with Bumpy. They arrived at 11:30 and found 1,000 people singing in the street, dancing, celebrating like New Year's Eve. Inside, Duke Ellington played Mood Indigo, while the crowd swayed together. The energy wasn't just joyful, it was transformative, revolutionary. The 3 enforcers looked at each other and understood instantly. There was nothing they could do. Not against this. Violence couldn't stop what was happening because this wasn't about physical power. This was about collective dignity, and you can't beat that with fists. The next morning, every Negro newspaper in New York ran the story. Cab Calloway humiliated. Harlem responds with historic night. The Amsterdam News published a photo of 1,000 people celebrating in the street. The Pittsburgh Courier called it, "The Night Harlem Rose Up." Even white newspapers covered the story, awkwardly confronting the hypocrisy they usually ignored. But Bumpy Johnson wasn't finished. Not even close. Monday morning, Bumpy made more calls. This time to every Negro-owned business that supplied the Cotton Club. The bakery that delivered fresh bread every morning. The butcher who provided premium steaks. The laundry service that cleaned tablecloths. "Starting today," Bumpy told each one, "you have a choice. You can work with respect or work with insults. Decide carefully." By Tuesday, the Cotton Club had no fresh bread. Wednesday, no meat deliveries. Thursday, the tablecloth stayed dirty. Oni Madden screamed at Herman Stark, who screamed at suppliers who simply stopped showing up. Reservations dropped 60%. The reputation of New York's most famous nightclub was collapsing in real time, and Madden finally understood he wasn't fighting one angry singer. He was fighting an entire community that had decided enough was enough. Saturday, 1 week after the incident, Bumpy received an unexpected visitor. Oni Madden himself, alone, without his usual army of enforcers. "We need to talk," Madden said at the door. Bumpy made him wait 20 minutes before appearing. When he finally came downstairs, he didn't offer a seat or a drink. "Talk fast," Bumpy said. "My time is worth more than yours." That sentence alone represented a complete inversion of the power structure Madden had spent years building. Madden swallowed his pride, which for a man like him was harder than swallowing glass. The doorman was a mistake. He won't work for me again. Bumpy shook his head slowly. That's not enough. The mistake wasn't hiring one racist doorman. The mistake was building a club in Harlem, profiting from our artists, employing our workers, and still treating us like second-class citizens. You didn't just insult Cab. You insulted every person who makes your business possible. Madden's face turned red, but he didn't argue because he knew Bumpy was right. "What do you want?" Madden finally asked. Bumpy leaned forward. "I want Cab back at double his salary. I want the front door open to any Negro artist, any night. I want a sign at the entrance saying all artists and staff welcome at every door. And I want you to publicly admit you were wrong. Madden stared at him. You're insane. My reputation. Bumpy laughed without humor. Your reputation? Your club is empty. Your suppliers vanished. Your best artists won't return calls. You don't have a reputation to protect anymore. You have a dying business, and I have the cure. Question is your pride worth more than your profits? Madden sat in silence for 5 full minutes. Bumpy didn't rush him, just waited with the patience of a man who knew he'd already won. Finally, Madden extended his hand. Fine, but Cab needs to return next week. Bumpy didn't shake the hand. Cab returns when he wants to, with respect, and you'll beg, not negotiate. Madden's hand dropped. All right, he whispered. The following Monday, the Amsterdam News published something historic. A full-page advertisement from the Cotton Club. We apologize to Mr. Cab Calloway and the Harlem community for unacceptable treatment. Negro artists built this club and will always be welcomed with the respect they deserve. Only Madden owner. That apology cost Madden more than money. It cost him the illusion of untouchable power. Cab Calloway returned to the Cotton Club in March 1931, but everything was different. He entered through the front door with Bumpy Johnson beside him. The entire band came through the front. Waiters chose which entrance they wanted. The new sign was installed exactly as demanded. White customers applauded, some sincerely, others uncomfortably, but it didn't matter. The rules had changed, and everyone knew it. That night, Cab sang better than ever. But between songs, he did something unexpected. He called Bumpy to the stage. This man doesn't fight with guns, Cab told the audience. He fights with something more powerful: organization, unity, dignity. Today, because of him, we walk through the front door. Tomorrow, because of him, our children won't have to fight this same battle. The applause was deafening, and in that moment, everyone understood they had witnessed something larger than one man's dignity being restored. They had witnessed the blueprint for resistance. The story spread beyond New York, beyond Harlem, into every Negro community in America. People understood something fundamental. Collective economic power was more effective than individual violence. When communities united, when artists, workers, suppliers, and leaders acted together with clear purpose, walls fell. Bumpy Johnson learned a lesson that night that would define the rest of his life. True power didn't come from guns or intimidation. It came from organized people with common purpose, strategic thinking, and the courage to say no to systems that demanded their submission. That lesson would make him a legend, not because of the violence he could inflict, but because of the change he could orchestrate, when he understood that the most dangerous weapon in the world was a community that refused to accept disrespect anymore. Did you enjoy this incredible story of Bumpy and how he helped Harlem? Consider clicking the button. New, exclusive stories every day.